So what does current analysis of production do for it today? What does it tell us?
You mean in terms of just understanding primary productivity in the modern environment, or?
Yeah, like in the modern environment. I mean, it's been stable for quite a long time. It's like, is barring any crazy events or mega shifts, it should stay at kind of about the same level, is what it sounds like. But is there any other benefit to understanding it?
Certainly the major players is important to think about. So today this is being done by a combination of trees, marine algae, cyanobacteria, understanding the distribution of those things, what species have sort of taken over at different times to become more and more important is just an interesting question, seeing as, it's one of the major parts that drives sort of Earth's biogeochemical cycles. I think that's very interesting for academic reasons. And then you sort of go down and think about in a more granular scale of just, forest health. What happens if we make major changes over landscapes and things? Those sort of lead to more interesting questions. But some of these big numbers, just looking at a planetary scale, when we don't really expect it to change much, I'm not struggling to think of exactly what people do with those numbers on a day-to-day basis. Probably not a lot, to be honest.
Well, if people try to segment, production to different, to again, the water, to the air, to different biomes, maybe then you could evaluate, all right, production should be this in the desert, but it seems to have gone way up or gone way down for some reason.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And within specific regions of the planet, it gets quite interesting. That's exactly right.
Any those are conclusions from looking at it in specific regions? Has anyone done this?
Yeah. So there's actually tons of work being done on this. Of course, you can imagine, like, what are the consequences of sort of transitioning huge swaths of the Amazon from jungle to agricultural land, or understanding, for example, exactly where productive zones are in the ocean and where unproductive zones of the ocean in is also very interesting. An example of that would be, one climate mitigation technology that's on the table is basically dumping things like iron into the ocean to fertilize it and use that as a climate mitigation strategy. So that starts with sort of having an idea of how different regions of the ocean operate and having a very deep knowledge of exactly what that ecosystem is lacking and what would happen if you were to add that missing ingredient and how much bang for your buck would you get. So those sorts of things, I think, is where some of this sort of bubbles up and becomes much more relevant to many pressing questions today.
Well, going forward, how does this dovetail with your intended research?
So my work is mostly focused on just trying to refine our understanding of Earth's past. And looking at the productivity of the biosphere, how much life has been around is one aspect of that. But there's other things that we also want to think about. How much oxygen was in the atmosphere through time? What were CO2 levels? How reliable is the rock record that we're looking at? And how can we sort of make checks and rechecks? And the way you have to do that is go out into the field, gather samples of the right age, take them back to the lab. I would say do the analyses, but I'm sort of at the stage now where it's train students to do the analyses and then share it with the community. So that's what I have to look forward to for the next while.
Yeah, very good. Peter, what's the best way for people to, to follow your research and to see more about what we've spoken about today?
Yeah, so check out my website. It's just petercrockford.rocks. Check out web pages at Carleton University, or look up on Google Scholar, or find me at Earth2Pete on Twitter. And yeah, that's usually where I'll post latest and greatest stuff coming out of the lab.